patience and cooperation. Boarding will begin in a few moments.
Hello YouTube, and welcome, Phriq here, and I am back for episode 2 of my Let's Play Flight Simulator X FSPassengers Season 5 video series for you. As you can see, we're sitting in the lovely brown and yellow Carenado Cessna 152 as where we parked it from our last flight, which resulted in a little bit of an emergency because our avionics went out right after I repaired it. Let me tell you, I am going to be having a pretty strong word with our mechanics on that. But anyway, as you can see, I did a terrible parking job, but we're just going to ignore that, go right into the aircraft and get ready for our flight. But first, what we got to do is go to company manager, and we are going to repair this aircraft. So let's go to aircraft maintenance. You can see it's going to be about $4,100 to fix all of that. So I'm going to repair it. There we go. No, we're just going to repair and pay the bill because we still have that $30 million, you know, I don't know. We are best friends with some rich guy who died or something. They just gave us all that money so we could start the company. Anyway, we're back into our aircraft. First thing then, we're just going to go and start the flight. Today, we are going to be going to the same location that we were going to try to go to last time, which is Devil's Lake. So I'm going to go ahead and see capacity. Well, why are we doing this again? There's only 2 seats on it, whatever. We're just gonna load one person because that's all we can load. Is it gonna be the same Christopher Norman? No, it is not. It is Chastity Harrell. And she wants to go fishing in Devil's Lake as well. We're just gonna make a lovely little flight out of that. So Chastity, is that her name? Chastity Harrell. All right, she's gonna be coming with us, and we're gonna go ahead and select some luggage to load as well. So, bringing all the fishing tackle in the world. Last time I think we had 30 pounds of fishing tackle. We have a little more load that we can do because she is lighter, so she can bring like her bathroom sink with her as well. We're going to do 50 pounds. I don't even know if this thing can carry 50 pounds of stuff, but you know, it's a simulator, so we're just going to go with it. So we got our one pilot, we got our one passenger, Chastity. What was her name? Harrell. I'm not going to remember that. I'm just gonna CH. She is CH from now on. Anyway, we're gonna be going to KDVL. Flight duration, so I'm doing active sky next again, which you can see right here, and we are using real world weather. If I went into weather configuration, sorry about that, you can see live weather mode is active. So we're going to be using that again. With that, it is a really windy day, so I'm going to kind of show you what I am talking about. So here is AirNav. If I pull up AirNav for KFAR, you can see that the METAR right now is showing that it is 320 at 19, gusting 28 for winds. The runway is 360, but there is a 310, so we're going to use that because the crosswind component on this, the demonstrated, is only 12 knots, and I would exceed that if I was using runway 360. It's about a 15 knot crosswind with those gusts. So whatever, we're just gonna go with it and use runway 31. There's also a runway 31 at Devil's Lake, and I've already checked the weather there. You can see where is it? Runway 13 and 31, they also have the smaller 21 and 3, but you can also see here that winds are 310 at 15, gusting 21, so they're directly down the pipe on runway 31. So we're just going to hope that the winds don't shift so we can actually land when we get up there. I'll bring this back down for one more time, and I'm just going to quick show you Sky Vector. You can see we're doing the same flight. I've already logged in kind of this information, so we're expecting it to take about an hour and 45 minutes with the winds. We're going to be flying at that heading of 308. Again, in the last video, I talked about all the marketers that we are going to be looking at because we're going to be flying strictly VFR in this flight, which means that we are not going to be using any kind of VORs, or we're not even going to use the ADF. We're simply going by our heading and some visual ground reference checkpoints. The first one is going to be these towers out here. Then around here, hopefully we could see that railroad. I don't think we're gonna. The main ones are going to be the lakes along the way up to this Stump Lake area, which then right after that we should see Devil's Lake, and Devil's Lake is on the north side. So that is where we are going to be going. Also, if you're wondering about the crosswinds, I just use this little crosswind calculator that I found online. Runway 31, those are marginal crosswinds, but if you bump that up to runway 36, you can see that it is going to put it to 15 knots. So we're just not going to do that. We're going to stick with what we can do as long as the game allows us. But we are going to put a flight duration in here. It's going to take 1 hour and 45 minutes. You could almost do the drive in that long.
Destination set.
Thank you, British lady. Set type. This is going to be a normal flight and select flight. We're not going to go into the settings or anything like that. So we're just going to go into OK real time load. Current fuel load. Should we bump that up? Sure. No, we're just going to leave it. We're good on fuel. We got so much fuel. So we're going to go OK real time load. 2 minutes. Cool.
Check flight.
All right. I don't really care about any of this stuff either. So I'm just going to go ahead and start the flight. We're going to hit Shift E to open our door. Start loading the passenger. Hello, Chastity Harrell. Welcome to our flight. Hopefully we do not have an emergency like we did with Christopher Norman or Christopher Brown. I don't remember what his name was. Anyway, let's go into our checklist. So before starting an engine, we're going to imagine that all the pre-flights are completed again. Seatbelts are done. Yeah, I don't care about any of that. It's all not really stuff that we can do in this game. So first thing I'm going to do is put our mixture to full rich carb heat, making sure that's in the cold position. I'm going to get rid of these yolks again because who wants them? Throttle, we are going to do that after we prime. 1, 2, 3. We're going to put in the throttle about 1/4 inch. And why it's so shaky, I have no idea. Maybe I have cerebral palsy or Parkinson's disease or something like that. That would be pretty terrible for a pilot. And anybody who actually has that, I feel sorry for them because that is got to be a difficult thing to deal with. Propeller area, we want to make sure that's all clear so we can look around. Everybody, all right. She is in, so let's go ahead and right away hit our seatbelt sign and shut the door. That is getting taken care of, and there is a child down here. I will be back in 1 second. All right, everybody, I am back. Unfortunately, one of the kids was like, I need to take out the dog, but the dog is sleeping. Do I still take out the dog? Well, yes, we're going to take out the dog. Anyway, we're going to get right back into the game. So, master switch, we want to go ahead and turn those to the on position. Boink! They are on. Propeller area, did I even look? Make sure there's no one around us. There is no one around us. It is all clear. So we can go into ignition switch, start making sure that parking brake is on, which it is. So, here we go. All right, we're going to see the RPM rise. We're also going to see the oil pressure here and also the oil temperature here start to slowly rise. We're going to pull back our throttle because we just want it to sit around 1,000 RPM mark or so. So can I pull it back? There we go. Getting a little bumped by that tailwind and the crosswinds, and that's probably what's pushing the propeller a little bit as well. With that set, we can look at the oil pressure, check it, and everything seems to be good. So we're going to go to before takeoff checklist. Parking brake is still set. Cabin doors are closed and latched. Flight controls, we can check those. Make sure they are free and correct, which they appear to be. I'll even check the rudders for us. There we go. They are all free and correct. Flight instruments, we're going to turn on our avionics. I have to use this button on my yoke because I have no idea how to turn this on. So again, if anybody knows how to turn that on, please send me a comment or a message because I would love to know how to turn it on in this aircraft. But I have tried pressing every button that I can find, cannot find it for the life of me, so I just mapped it to another control. Where else are we? Everything else is for testing the engine, the magnetos, and things like that before, so what we're going to do is we're going to pull up and go to Addons and listen to that.
Fargo, airport information, November, 1911 Zulu, wind 307, at 170, visibility greater than 20 miles, sky conditions, clouds at 1,200, temperature Jude 6, 2.4, altimeter Jude 9er, ILS, runway 36 in use, landing and departing runway 36, KFAR aircraft stay direction of flight, all aircraft read back hold short instructions, Advise controller.
Alright, so they're telling us to take off on runway 36. I am gonna see if there is a way to change that. Taxi for takeoff options. Maybe that's it. No? Apparently we just have to use what the game suggests, so we're gonna probably go with it.
Quebec 3-1 with November. Request taxi to the active west departure. Papa Hotel, Quebec 3-1.
I guess we're just gonna go with winds that are out of limits. Whatever, we're gonna deal.
Contact tower 133.8 when ready.
Alright, so we'll acknowledge that.
Short runway 3.
We're starting to roll a little bit, so we will get ourselves going. Looking around. So I was hoping I could just take taxiway Foxtrot, which is right there, to runway 31, but apparently I can't even do that, so whatever. We're just gonna go along with this. Here's that taxiway that we want to get onto, so we're gonna hop onto that. This will be taxiway Golf right here. Kind of going quicker just because taxiing is so boring. Going way faster than I should be for actually doing a taxi, but then again the airspeed isn't going to be very reliable because we're on the ground and that wind is basically coming right at us and like shoving the wind into the pitot tubes. So our airspeed is going to be very inaccurate. As you can see, there's a hold chart line here again. This is for that runway 31. Whoa, stop turning. Looking both ways, and we're just going to cross that because the game doesn't recognize that there's a hold short line, so you can't hold short there and then request further on, and the game doesn't even tell you that you can proceed past it, so whatever, we're just going to deal. Keep on trucking, we'll get off the active, and I'm turning to the right slightly so I can eventually go hit the brakes into the wind. Alright, brakes are gonna come on right here, parking brake, and we're gonna get rid of this again, which is that yoke, which we don't want. We're gonna bump up our throttle up to 1700 RPM, making sure those parking brakes hold. Everything is looking good so far, and we're gonna check the magnetos and also the carb heat. So, right there is about 1700. We can dip these down. There's the left, and we're gonna see a little drop right there. Both. See it climb, and we'll go to the right. See another little drop right there, put it back to both. Then we can check our carb heat. We're gonna see a slightly bigger jump. It's gonna be about 100 RPM. We're gonna push that back in. Everything seems to be functioning well. Carb heat is pushed back in. Engine instruments and amp meter, everything is looking good on that. I don't, whatever. Hopefully the mechanics fixed it this time. That's all I can say, because holy cow was I frustrated. I gave them an earful, let me tell you. Going through the rest of the checklist, our suction gauge is checked, radios are set. We'll turn on all our lights are already on, so I guess we're just gonna stick with that. I must have forgot them to turn them off after my last flight. Throttle friction lock, we can't even deal with that because it's a video game and brakes release. So what I'm gonna do is I am gonna pull back my throttle, take off my brakes. We're gonna start rolling, and I'm gonna turn us so we can get back onto that hold short line for runway 36. There we are. We're not really on the taxi line, but that is all right. Differential braking because my brakes are on my yoke right now because my brake pedals broke. I got my new rudder pedals in, but I just have not installed them. But the differential braking seems to be holding us, so we're just gonna go with it. We're tuned to Fargo Tower. We're going to press takeoff clearance VFR.
At runway 36, ready for takeoff, west departure. Papa Hotel Quebec 3-1, cleared for takeoff, runway 36, departure to the west approved. Cleared for takeoff, runway 36, Papa Hotel Quebec 3-1.
All right, we got our takeoff clearance. Probably going to have a little bit of crosswind on this. Once we get into the air, it's not as bad. Crosswind components do affect takeoff, but it does mostly make landing harder. Takeoff you can kind of control with your rudders a little bit when you're on the ground and whatnot, but once you get even a little airborne, if you have those gusts, they can push you off the runway and do all kinds of wonky things with your aircraft. So would I have liked to take off from runway 31? Absolutely. Are they allowing it? No. Normal takeoff, we are ready. Her seatbelt sign is on. I am just gonna put down my flaps to 10%, and let's go for it. P-Factor always wants to push you to the right, so or to the left, excuse me, so you gotta use a little right rudder, which I am doing that. Otherwise, we are gonna turn to the left. You can see I'm kind of almost going kitty corner. This is me getting the air against me from those crosswinds as well. I'm gonna pull up and just start to slowly climb. You can see us already getting turned off that runway heading because of those winds. All right. We were cleared for takeoff. Are we going to 133.8? We're on 133.8. I have no idea what they were talking about. But we got our takeoff clearance. I am having a difficult time maintaining our runway heading just because of all that crosswind. Where are we in relationship to it? We're already kind of starting our turn. That's all right. We're just going to go for it. Normally you're going to want to fly that to the end of the runway, but I'm also trying to save a little time because I only got about 2 hours to make this flight, and it's an hour and 45 minutes, and I have to do a little bit of time, you know, setting up the flight. I mean, it's already 17 minutes in, so we're going to see how this goes. Again, we're going to try to climb up to 4,500 feet. Trying to maintain that heading of roughly 308, but we are going to get pushed to the south because of those winds. Because of that, I'm going to be offset a little bit, so I'm not going to be directly flying at that 308. I'm probably going to fly more of like a 320 or try to maintain that. If we get a little north of Devil's Lake, that is all right. I will be able to see it. Most of our visual cues as well are to the north, so either way, we should be pretty good to go. We are up, so I'm going to put up those flaps. We can look out the window, just make sure they are up, and they appear to be up. This wind is really bouncing us around. And because of that, you can see that our passenger is scared because of turbulence. Awesome. I fully expect that pretty much the entire flight again. About to pass 2,000 feet, so we got another 2,500 to go on our climb. Still on with Fargo Tower. Eventually they should put us to approach and departure. So I will be preparing for that as well. That's going to be on 120.4. I could go ahead and put it into our frequency if I wanted to, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to have the game do it because, like I said earlier, these are a pain in the butt. Look, my cursor is on the knob and nothing wants to turn, but if I go outside of it, that's when it wants to turn. Like, I'm not going to deal with that. We are just going to use the game, use the ATC menu to do all our comm tuning. We'll just pretend we're tasking that to Chastity. What's in front of us? We got a Cessna 208 at 9.7 miles. They're still at 7,000 feet, so they should be well above us. And hopefully, ATC helps call them out for us as well. Getting the nose a little high. Kind of want to maintain that 65 knot window. Anywhere between 60 and 70 roughly is where my best climb is going to be. Getting turned a little bit too much. As you can see, we are past that 330, so I kind of want to turn us a little bit, get us a little more on course. Also using this magnetic compass up there to help out with that. That's a little bit better. Looking to make sure that we're leveled off. Just because I'm climbing, it's hard to see out the window with this, the way my camera is set up. We're still turning a little bit. But that's going to happen while we are climbing. Once we start to level out, we'll get through a little more of those effects. We should be able to trim out the aircraft and look a little better for the rest of the flight. Passenger satisfaction is at a lovely 83% because of all this turbulence, but unfortunately that's going to last the entire flight, Miss Chastity, so you might as well just get over it, because last time there was turbulence and there was an electrical issue and I still landed Christopher Norman safely. So, you know, not to brag or anything, but Phriq Airlines probably is one of the best airlines in the world, so you should just be excited that you're using them. I mean, look at this beautiful aircraft we got. We have a Cessna 152. How could you not want to fly in that? All right, we're getting close to where we have about 1,000 feet to go in our climb. Making sure that Cessna is passing to our right, which it appears to be. Whoops, don't want to look that far. I just want to look back. Yeah, we're going a little too far to the north. Here's that interstate that we want to pass. As you can see, we keep on pilot airing and turning us a little too much to the north, but I am all right with that. I still know where we are going. Start rolling out here. Looking down, checking my heading. And we're gonna make sure that we are trying to fly straight and level now. Once I get leveled off, I am gonna bring in Sky Vector so you can kind of see what my flight planning is again for this, just in case you missed episode 1. But if you did miss episode 1, I absolutely highly recommend you to go check it out. It is probably one of the best flights in the world. On top of that, I also recommend that you guys comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. That way you'll get notifications when more of these great videos come out. Who doesn't want more awesome YouTube like this? I mean, an hour and a half of just watching someone else fly a fake plane. Why would you not want to watch that? Then again, I try to make them as educational as possible to an extent and try to make them entertaining. Maybe I'm just coming off as completely annoying. I have no idea, but we're just gonna go with it. All right, we're getting close to our assigned altitude of 4,500, so we're gonna start dipping down the nose. Like so. Getting a few frame rate hits. I'm not sure if you guys are noticing that in the prop, but I am not a big fan of that. Hopefully that's not engine failure or something. I don't think I'm taxing my computer that much with this game. I know, uses a fair amount, but this is a good computer. It's a new computer. I am using new recording software because NVIDIA Shadowplay won't work with this computer because it's got like NVIDIA Optimus, which means it's got both an integrated graphics card and the RTX, like, I don't even know, 1070 or something like that, which I have in it, but because of that, NVIDIA doesn't know when to use the integrated card or the NVIDIA card in its recording software. But so far, this OBS software that I found online has been working pretty well, so I'm pretty happy with it. Normally I'd pull back the throttle a little bit, but I don't want to do that on account that I want to get that airspeed up because I want to get there. I don't, you know, if I get there early, I am going to be completely happy with that. Got us a little high, so I'm trying to get us back to altitude. Not going to turn off that seatbelt sign because, well, there is turbulence, and I don't want her to do stupid things. Plus, there is absolutely no reason in a Cessna 152 to take off your seatbelt. It just makes no sense whatsoever. I imagine any second I should be getting pushed to Fargo approach. I have no idea if the game is actually going to do that for me, but I absolutely should get pushed to them. Because I'm going to request a flight following with them. we are pretty much getting leveled off at 4,500, so I'm just gonna probably pause the video for our first time right here. When I get back, I'm gonna show you some of my visual planning that I am using for this flight, so that way you can see kind of the markers that I am using and how I plan on getting from point A to point B, which is gonna be Devil's Lake. So I will bring you all back in just a little bit. Alright everybody, I am back. As you can see, I'm in a little bit of a turn, and that's just because I wanted you guys to be able to see this, and then straight ahead of us we have that and that. Those lines there are the radio towers and our first checkpoint along our flight. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in SkyVector, and with SkyVector, if I can bring it down, and we'll pull up our travel path right here, and you can see these right here. These are exactly what we were looking for. So you can see there were two sets of them, one set here and one set here. So kind of we're a little to the north of them, or more so heading towards this one, which is all right by me because I was going to use this lake right here as my next visual cue. So being along the north side of the path, I am totally okay with that because I'm still going to get to my destination. As long as you know where you are, flying the visual aids is what you want to do more so than just course and heading, especially when you can't tell what the winds are doing to you necessarily. We have strong winds out of the northwest, so they are going to be pushing us to the south, and if we were simply flying a 308 heading the entire time, we're actually going to be flying more of a southerly course than what that is indicating. And also when I'm looking at that, there is not nearly as many visual aids to look at. Plus there are some that I could bite off that would be the wrong. So these smaller lakes here are very similar to these smaller lakes here, where if I was not using the earlier ones, I might bite off on these thinking that I'm a little north of my heading and start turning, and I'm going to be way off from Devil's Lake, which is up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to use my visual aids. So I'm going to pass these, and then I'm going to look for these lakes, which should stand out pretty definitively. And then I'm going to start looking for these lakes, and then finally that stump lake before Devil's Lake. This railroad track I might be able to see, but in-game I'm not sure if I'm really going to be able to see that. Also, I got this power line system running up here. That should also be visible from the air, so if I know that I'm starting to see that, I know that I'm going a little too far north, or really too far north, and I should probably be watching out for that as well. But as of right now, I can see the radio towers that I was looking for, so everything is looking hunky-dory. While I had SkyVector up, as you can just see, I had ascended about 500 feet, so let's try to get us back to altitude. Normally what I would do is have a knee board where I would have my aeronautical chart and or ForeFlight on my iPad, which I would use, although I would have a paper aeronautical chart in the aircraft just in case my iPad died, and my phone, which I also utilize. It's an Android, so I can't use ForeFlight, but there is a lot of other good tools on there that I could use. However, just keep in mind that none of those are actually certified for flight, so you can't technically navigate based on GPS on your iPad. That is just an FAA regulation, but they are great situational awareness tools that you can utilize, and I would definitely say do it, because why would you handcuff yourself by not using the tools that you have at hand? Getting a little more on altitude, so I'm going to work on leveling us out a little bit, and we're just going to continue to overfly these radio towers. The tallest one goes up to about 3,000 feet, so even if we went right above them, we should be okay by about 1,500 feet. With that being said, I am still going to offset myself so I do not crash into them. They are 2,000 feet high, you can see that right here on the chart, and then 3,038, that's where it is going to be MSL. But you know what, we're going to not deal with the worrying about that, because we're going to go above them, because we are well above them by about 1,500 feet. So we're just going to continue our flight. These winds, and there must be some thermals or stuff, because I keep on climbing, descending. There was a point when you guys weren't watching that I was actually nose down probably 2 degrees and was still climbing, and that just has to do with some thermals. I'm not sure how the game indicates where the thermals are going to be or anything like that, but it is something that happens in real life flying. I have to deal with it a lot. Just something to be aware of. There have been times where I have been in the aircraft I fly for my job, I have been pointed 6 degrees nose down and still climbing, and that's just one of those things that can happen, especially when you're lower to the ground on these hot days where the ground builds up some of that heat, especially when you're flying over North Dakota with all these lovely farmlands, especially early in the spring like it is right now. There's not a whole lot of crops, there's a lot of black soil, and that black soil heats up and then causes the air to lift up underneath, and that's why you do get a lot of those thermals. So it's just something to pay attention to. So we're passing those ones right there, and you should see that second set down here. So we know that we are on course and flying just hunky-dory. As you can see, I'm still squawking 1200 as well because, well, for some reason, I don't know if it's because I went to approach. I was getting way out of Tower's airspace. They had never passed me on to approach, and I don't know if that is why. I did not have the option for a flight following. I should definitely have the option for a flight following. Why it's happening, I have no idea. I'm guessing it's maybe just because I swapped before the game wanted me to, but it was getting to the point where it was just ridiculous. I couldn't even see the airport. I was way out there. So, yeah. I showed you some of the stuff on SkyVector where I'm planning on going. I'm going to actually probably pause the video again once I get to those next set of checkpoints, which is going to be those few lakes that are up ahead of us. I'm going to bring you back, and then at that point, I am going to talk about my Let's Learn topic, which is loss of radio. And what do you do to indicate to Tower that you're loss of radio, and what are some of the things that they can indicate to you with to show that they understand that you are without a radio and that you can be cleared to land or cleared to taxi and all of those. It's something that I never really dealt with in the game yesterday, not yesterday, but last time I flew, it was a couple days ago actually, simply because FSX doesn't model any of that to my knowledge. Maybe they do and I just wasn't paying attention, and if they do, shame on me. But I just assumed that the game did not indicate radio failures very well, because I don't even think it's part of the base game. I think it's more so just part of FSPassengers. With that being said, I will talk about that in my Let's Learn topic once we come back. So for you, it's just going to be a couple minutes. For me, it's going to be a lot more minutes because I am flying slow and it's going to take me a little while to get to those lakes, but you're going to get to see some lovely views and beautiful jazz music along the way. So I will be back in just a little bit. Everybody, I debated bringing you back or not during this point. I'm not at that checkpoint, which I was going to be utilizing these lakes right here, but to show you that I'm still on course, you can see in the background off to the south these lakes right here. We just passed these, and you can see these lakes being depicted right here as well, and or right here. I'm guessing it's these ones because we're a little more north. These lakes right here, as shown on the ground. So that's another thing. Another thing I can utilize as well is right down here, you can kind of see it because it's covered with SkyVector, but right here you see another river that's going along. And you can see on the game that we have at those lakes, where am I? Right down here, another river as well. and it's seeming to be beautiful. It works out perfectly that you can see the main river, and then you can almost see this tributary that breaks off, which is right here. So as you can see, that's another indication that we are on course. We're probably around halfway between getting to our next check mark, which are those lakes that should be in front of us. So I'm going to go ahead and look in front of us. We're still holding our trim fairly well, and these might be those lakes that we are coming up on right there. So awesome. Everything seems to be holding out pretty well as far as our visual aids go for flying. I'm gonna just once I get a little closer to those, compare them to that on the map, and we should be sitting pretty as far as our course to get to Devil's Lake. So I'm just bringing you back just for that short little intermission so you can see kind of the navigation that was happening behind the scenes. I'm still gonna pause the video. Once I get closer to these lakes, we'll pull down Sky Vector again so you can kind of see the aeronautical chart and where I am in relation to Devil's Lake, which is our final destination, and then we are going to talk about our Let's Learn topic. So I will see you all in just a little bit. Alright everybody, I am back. I haven't flown terribly far from the last time I talked to you. Oh, excuse me, COVID's. Just kidding, I don't have that. But as you can see, we are getting up to these lakes, and if I pull down Sky Vector, which serves as our aeronautical chart, you can see there is a two north-south running lakes that are bigger, another smaller one just to the west of the one, and then a bunch of littler lakes around it. That's kind of what we're looking at. Here's those radio towers that we passed, here's that river that we were looking at, and now we're coming up to this position here. So we are north of our track, which is fine, because it's still going to get us exactly where we want to go. We're still going to be able to see all our visual cues along the way, but if I move this back up, you can see the north-south running lake, and then the other one to the north of that, the one just to the west of that smaller one, and then some of those littler ones around. So we are right on course. We know exactly where we are at in the world, which is pretty awesome. Yes, I am outside of the aircraft right now. Apparently I have an escape hatch out the top, and or we're just like one of those girl performers, and there was some guy performers I think that did it in like the 1940s during air shows where they would walk across the wings. I think some people still do that now every once in a while, but I'm not sure. But this is just kind of like what you see on TV back in the old school days when people were allowed to walk on wings of airplanes. Anyway, we'll go back into our cockpit. If I do that, you can see that no longer can we see those visual cues below us. So that is kind of why I did that, and why I brought you back outside of the aircraft, because if I would have brought you inside, I would have been talking, you'd been like, hey, I don't see any lakes. Where are they? And that's where they are. Once we fly over them, though, we'll be able to look out our windows and see them as well. So we know that we are on course. We're still flying really high, so I'm gonna get us down. Apparently when I'm not paying attention, I just start to climb a lot, because I climbed like almost 1,000 feet there without knowing it. Part of the problems to making a YouTube video instead of just focusing on flying is that, well, you can't see what's happening with your instrumentation. Normally when you're flying, I will do a little sightseeing and things like that, but I'm always cross-checking my gauges all the time, make sure I'm on airspeed, altitude, and all of those fun things, and course, heading, all of that. But because I can't do that when I'm outside of the aircraft riding on the wings, you know, sometimes some of those things happen. That's why we're just going to pretend they didn't happen. We're kind of leveling off at 4,500 feet again, so we are back on altitude for the most part. Another thing that you may have noticed, I brought you in just for a tiny bit to see that I was able to get the flight following up. However, it just doesn't seem to be working as it should, because I got Papa Hotel Quebec. We're squawking 5662. I'm showing 5662, but they didn't give me a radar contact or anything like that. And the other thing that should happen is they should be passing me off to Minneapolis Center, especially by this point. Why it has not happened, I have no idea. I don't know if there's something going on with the game just being a little quirky, or if because I want to approach early, just kind of screwed all of my future radio stuff up. I have no idea. I don't even have the message to look for a nearest airport list or anything like that, so I'm hoping I can find that. Whoa, we want to do that. So hopefully that'll come back. Maybe if I close it and then reopen it, I don't know. Maybe if I tune to another station, tune to approach, I have no idea. If anything, worst case scenario, once we get to Devil's Lake, if it doesn't give us the option, now I'm descending way too much. This is what I've got to be watching out for when making YouTube videos. I'm just not paying attention at all. I am the worst pilot there is. Anyway, if once I get closer to Devil's Lake, I'm not seeing anything to tune to Devil's Lake, I'm just going to have to do it manually. Luckily, I do have Flight Sim DB up as well, so AirNav is kind of like your airport facility directory, but this is all real-world information. As you can see, it's updated real-world and whatnot, and runway headings change, frequencies change, and all of that. But we got lovely Flight Sim DB right here, which is basically the same thing as AirNav. It's like a airport facility directory for Flight Simulator, which is awesome because this has it as for what it should be in the game. So if I come down to, where is it? Radio frequencies is somewhere in here, I believe. It's been a little while since I've used it. Nearboard, I don't care about the nearby stuff. Charts and documents, maybe? Approach? No, general? I don't know, I'm gonna have to look when you guys are not looking with me, and maybe we can find it. Maybe if I make it full screen, we can see some of the frequencies. Because I know it has it in here somewhere where it's got, oh, radios. Duh, if I just click on that. So, click on radios, and you can see that for Devil's Lake Municipal, the Unicom, and CTAF. So the CTAF is 122.8, which is the same as the Unicom, which works out. We're going to use that. And then we're also going to use the automated weather service to get 125.875. We'll get the AWOS information, find out what the winds are doing once we get up there. So, even if the game does not allow me to do it, that's what I plan to do. Oh, we are really getting low now, so I'm going to start climbing, get us back up to 4,500 feet. We're kind of on a roller coaster right now, Chastity. I'm sorry about that, but I'm making a YouTube video at the same time as I'm flying you to Devil's Lake for your fishing trip, or whatever you plan to do there. Pretty soon, if we keep on flying this course, which we're still kind of roughly, we're going more 330. I'm probably going to turn us a little to the west, actually. Get us more on like a 300 heading, if that, probably around a 300 heading. Just so we don't get too far north of where we want to be going. Going to start rolling out. Still climbing back super slowly, so I'm just going to increase that rate of climb right now. As well, get us back to altitude. Another thing that I was going to talk about is what happens when our radio fails. So there's a few things that you can do. If you still have the ability to send out a squawk code, you can squawk 7600. That is going to let them know that, hey, we have some kind of radio failure. That is the first thing that you can do. If you're not able to squawk, the next best thing is once you get close, you can start rocking your wings to the tower. And that is going to let them know that you have a radio failure. What are they going to do then to signal you? So the whole thing is you're going to enter a pattern. So try to look at what the winds are doing, look at the wind socks, and you're going to want to choose a runway that is most suitable for the winds. Enter that traffic pattern, and then they're going to use something called a signal lamp. The signal lamp has multiple different colors, and it's going to give you the ability to know what you are cleared to do. So if you are in flight, Flashing white light means that, hey, you can land at this airport. So that's a good thing. If you want to know if you're cleared to land, they'll do a steady green light. That's going to indicate that you are cleared to land on the runway that you're heading to, and you should be good to proceed. A flashing green means return for landing. Steady red means give way to other aircraft and continue circling. So you can continue circling outside of the runway, watching that steady red light until you are able to come back. There is also a flashing red, which means the airport is unsafe. Do not land here. So don't land there. Pretty simple. And then there's alternating red and green, which means exercise extreme caution because of something, whether it be weather or something like that. Once you're on the ground, then they use the same colors again. So steady green means cleared for takeoff. Why you would take off again, I have no idea. Flashing green means you're cleared to taxi. A steady red, if you see that, just means stop. Stop taxiing. Stop doing what you're doing. Maybe there's an aircraft coming towards you. Maybe you're on a wrong taxiway or something like that. Just stop. Flashing red means taxi clear of the runway in use. So if you landed and you're in the runway of use, use the flashing red. And/or you could cross that runway if it's in use. And yeah, the rest are for ground vehicles. So that's kind of some of the things that happen when you are flying that can signal radio failure, and what you can do to signal ATC or the airport that you have radio failure, and some of the ways that they're going to signal you to tell you to proceed. All good things to learn. And all things that you should learn when you're going through your pilot training and things like that. Now, like I mentioned before, I kind of caveated myself. It's a flight simulator, and I never did the rocking of the wings and stuff just because Flight Simulator X is not going to give you any of those indications. So I just kind of circled into the runway and landed. However, real world, you're definitely going to want to try to let people know that you are radio failure. However, if you're not getting any lights in return, if everything looks safe, you're running low on fuel, absolutely land. It is not worth it to risk your life by continuing to fly just hoping that they might have this signal light and maybe they don't see you, maybe no one's in the tower, maybe the tower is closed, maybe it's an airport where the tower is closed. So use your best judgment. You're the pilot in command, you're the one that has to make these calls, and it all comes down to safety of flight. Using the flashlight signals and the signal lamp and the rocking of the wings is absolutely recommended. Do it if you can. But for safety of flight and for your own life, do what is smart. If you need to land, absolutely land. Just make sure you're doing it in a safe manner. If you're seeing aircraft on the runway, circle around once and then come back to land. Just things to be aware of. So anyway, I hope you learned a little something with that. I hope you never have to experience a big failure or something like that when you are in flight, outside of maybe in a simulator or things like that. But if it happens, now you know what to do. So hope you enjoyed that Let's Learn topic. With that, I am going to continue flying. I'm going to bring down Sky Vector one more time to kind of show you my next things that I'm looking for. Are going to be a bunch of lakes right up here. There's going to be a lot of little skinny lakes that I'm going to be flying over, passing, and I can see a few lakes over here, and I might start getting close to these. If I minimize that and look down, you can kind of see that there is a bunch of lakes right here. So we are still on par with our flying to get to the location and fly our course that we have intended on. I'm trying to climb back up. Man, I am doing terrible at maintaining altitude right now just because I am not paying attention to it at all. I'm gonna pull it back up. So after these lakes, we're gonna continue to follow them, and we'll start to see Stump Lake. It's gonna be a little off to our left once we get up there. Once we get there, we can head directly for it, and we'll know exactly where to go from there. So that is gonna be the next visual aid after this. Also, if we look off our left wing, I'm not gonna be sure if we can see it, but we can see there is that railroad. So what I can do is minimize this, and we could try to find a railroad out here. Then again, I don't know if the game is going to model that really well, especially you don't have the draw distance for things getting populated in the game as you would in real life, because, you know, you have the infinite draw distance. As far as light can reach your eyes, you're going to be able to see. But in the game, Obviously, they don't draw things out here because that would cause way too much taxation on your computer system and things like that. So that's why I chose not to really use the railroad as a visual reference point, just because in game I know it was going to be difficult, but with my scenery mods that I have, Orbix and whatnot, they do draw the lakes nicely, so I am able to do a lot more VFR flying and do it a lot more accurately, simply based on the fact that the lakes are there and those radio towers are there and all the things that I was using for my ground reference are there, which definitely a beneficial thing. So you can absolutely fly VFR in Flight Simulator X. Just be aware of some of the limitations that are associated with that. Not sure if I talked much about in the last video about selecting your visual cues, so I'm going to actually bring up SkyVector again. As we were talking about the bigger things, those are the ones that you're going to want to look for. Things like little roads and country houses and things like that are going to be very difficult to actually use because they're so easily missed. That's why you want to be able to use the things where you can see very distinctly that this is that lake that I am looking for, such as this stump lake. It's a large lake, it's got a definitive shape. We'll easily be able to pick that out from any other lake. Same with these lakes here. We were able to pick out and see them very easily from the air, and that's kind of what you want to utilize. You can use some of the smaller things such as roads and towns and power line wires and things like that. It is a lot easier in real world to use them, but you definitely need to be paying attention. Another thing you can do, which is highly recommended if you're not used to the area. I've flown North Dakota quite a bit, so I'm used to the area. I know this path to Devil's Lake, so I was confident doing this without adding timings to my checkpoints. But if you know your altitude, if you know your airspeed, then you know how long it should take you to get from one checkpoint to another. Based on that information, then what you can do is plot out all of your checkpoints and then the estimated time it's going to take to get to those checkpoints. So just say when we took off, we predicted it's going to take 20 minutes. 20 minutes to get us to these radio towers. Start a clock, start using your watch, and once you get to about that 15-minute mark, start looking around, see if you can start seeing them yet. If you're well off course and you're not seeing any radio towers that you know are supposed to be there, and now you're hitting like 30-40 minutes, more than likely you're probably a little lost and you got to find a way to get back on course. How are you going to do that? Well, if you're on with ATC, you can request your position. They can tell you where you are, and then you can kind of find it on the aeronautical chart and utilize that. If you're flying VFR, you're not always in a flight following. If you're traveling cross country, I highly recommend it. It is safe. They're going to monitor it as workload permitting, basically. They're going to monitor you. They're going to give you clearances, not clearances, but they're going to let you know when other aircraft are coming within your flight path and things like that, which is another thing to want to be aware of. Another thing that you can do, and this is a little more risky, but every town has a water tower. And every water tower, for the most part, has the name of that town on it. So if you are just dead lost, you have no comms with anybody, and you see a town, descend a little bit. I'm not saying get super low, but get low enough so you can read the name on the water tower. Just be extraordinarily cautious when you're doing this, because there might be power lines, there might be radio towers, and there might be all of those kind of obstacles that are around you that you could hit. So you need to be very cognizant of your surroundings when you're doing that. But you're flying VFR, you don't have to maintain special altitudes and things like that. And especially when it comes to safety of flight, if you're lost, get found, however that is. So look at a water tower, because more than likely that's going to be a very beneficial thing to helping you know where you are. Otherwise, use your phone, use your iPad if you got that along. If they have batteries and they have GPS, especially if you're flying a general aviation aircraft at 4,500 feet, your GPS should absolutely work. So you should be able to get a general idea of where you are in the world based on that. So just use all the tools that are at your disposal. Use big reference points on the ground. Time out your checkpoints and fly safely. That is kind of the big thing. Now, if you can't find any water towers, if you can't find anything, look for a runway. That is the next thing that you're going to want to do, is simply look for a runway. If you can't get into comms with anybody, as we talked earlier, use the radio out procedures or something like that if you have absolutely no idea what frequency you're supposed to be on, and get on the ground safely. There is no point trying to salvage a bad flight by getting lost and not doing anything about it. That is extraordinarily dangerous. So if you have no idea where you are, no idea to how you can find out where you are, try to land. Just be safe when you fly. So those are a few of my pointers for flying VFR. We'll talk about them, I'm sure, more in some of the future flights, because we're going to be flying this aircraft again for our next flight. So I'll talk a little more about VFR navigation as well. So thanks. I hope you guys enjoyed that little bit of information. I'm going to keep on flying, and I'm going to pause the video, and I'll bring you all back once we get closer to Stump Lake. So I will talk to you all in just a little bit. Everybody, I'm bringing you back just for a quick second because I discovered this top-down view, which is awesome. It's kind of like a bomb run in a Cessna 152. Look we even got crosshairs. So we're going to try to target that building right there with a cluster bomb. So we're going to fly over that, and we are ready to release and drop. No, I'm just kidding. We don't have any bombs on board, but it's kind of an interesting view looking straight down from the bottom of your aircraft. Why we have this red, like, targeting view or whatever it is, I have no idea. Anyway, we're continuing to fly, and I can see Stump Lake area right up here. So we, again, are right on course. That is awesome. We're sitting at 4,500 feet, which is good as well. Downside, we are still on Fargo approach, and there is nothing to get us to Minneapolis Tower. We are way outside of their airspace, so obviously my flight following is not working, so I'm just gonna screw that, and I'm gonna go to 122.0, and we're just gonna go straight VFR again, because for some reason that is not working. I don't have the numbers for Minneapolis Center, and I don't know if I can find them in game. I might try to look for that, but anyway, once we pass Stump Lake, we are pretty much close to our area that we are going to anyway. As you can see, Stump Lake is right here, and then right beyond that we're going to start seeing Devil's Lake, and Devil's Lake City is right there, and there's the airport. So we definitely should be all right anyway, just flying VFR. Now hopefully we don't crash, but we're not lost. We don't really need to use ATC on account that, you know, we are flying VFR anyway, so we're just going to continue to fly VFR. I'm going to start turning us a little bit to the north just because we did get a little farther south. I did overcompensate slightly on my flight path. We can look at the map to see how accurate I was in our flying later after we land if we wanted to. So that is something that we could do, is just kind of use the in-game flight line that it draws out and see how accurately we were flying. With that being said, I'm going to pause the video one more time, get us to Stump Lake, and then I will see you all in just a little bit.
departure. 1 miles north of 1 Alpha 2. Request flight following. Viper November 61 Niner Zone. Copy Viper Niner 0 Delta.
Alright everybody, I am back. As you can see, we are right in front, or well, Stump Lake is right in front of us. There's East Stump Lake, West Stump Lake. This whole area is, I think, a wildlife refuge or something like that. If I bring up my map, you can see Stump Lake National Wildlife Refuge, and you can see it is very accurately portrayed here. So you have the main north-south running lake right here, and then you have this little inlet here that is east-west running with another lake just off to the west of it that is mostly north-south running. And then even behind that, we can almost start to see Devil's Lake starting to come in right back here. There's a lot of little areas of Devil's Lake, so I'm gonna go ahead and close this, but you can see that Stump Lake is matched beautifully with how it shows on the real-world aeronautical chart. And then what we're starting to see here is East Devil's Lake into Devil's Lake, and then Devil's Lake should just be on the north side. So we are getting very close to our destination, which is awesome. Starting to descend just a little bit. I've been trying to hold 4,500, but when I'm always outside of the aircraft and doing YouTube-y type stuff, my altitude has been suffering, especially with a lot of the thermals that the game has been producing, with me constantly having to retrim in new pitch attitudes and whatnot to make sure that we are trying to fly level. We're mostly level right now. We're at about 4,300 feet, which is 200 feet below. Real world, I always try to stay within 200 feet for sure. 100 feet is my goal, but on YouTube, I give myself a few liberties on account of the fact that A, I don't have any altitude holds or anything like that in this aircraft, and B, I am not nearly doing my cross-checks as much as I should be because I am trying to take some of those lovely outside of the airplane videos and things like that for you guys to listen to for jazz music purposes. You know, whatever, that's what we do. That's what we do on this channel. However, I do try to make things as realistic as possible, so I try to maintain my altitudes as best as I can. Why am I picking 4,500 feet, you might wonder? Well, if you've seen in earlier videos of mine, will know that there are VFR flying altitudes, and cruising altitudes, I should say, as well as IFR ones. When you are flying west, that is anywhere 180 up to 360 and heading, you want to be at an even 1,000-foot altitude plus 500 for VFR. That is because for IFR flights, the even altitudes, such as just 4,000, 6,000, 8,000, all the way up, are reserved for IFR flights. So when you're flying VFR, you always do 500-foot separation, basically. That way, you can ensure that if there is an airplane that is flying west at a faster altitude at 4,000 feet, and they're flying IFR, they might be looking down. They are not using all the same visual requirements as we are flying VFR. We will be deconflicted in altitude, and that's another reason why it's important to stay at your altitudes, not deviate from that. Then when you are traveling east, that is anywhere from heading 0 to 180, you're going to be doing the odd 1,000 feet, so 3,000, 5,000, 7,000 plus 500 for VFR, or just 3,000, 5,000, 7,000 flat when you're flying IFR. However, when you're flying IFR, you are going to be on with ATC the entire time, so this is definitely not an IFR flight because we're squawking 1200 and we have no radio contact with anybody right now. So, just things to pay attention to when you are flying. We are sitting at about 4,500 feet. We are pretty much, I believe, right over or just past, Stump Lake. And you can see East Devil's Lake is right up here, and then Devil's Lake is going to be up here. So what I'm going to do is pause the video one more time. I'm going to bring you back once we're about over East Devil's Lake, and then we're going to be set up for the final approach landing. We'll get the weather and all of that. So we'll talk about that in just a little bit. everybody, we are back. We are pretty much over East Devil's Lake right now. Devil's Lake Airport is going to be up in this area. If I pull up Sky Vector one last time, you are going to see that we are flying over this East Devil's Lake area, and then Devil's Lake is going to be right on the top of the bump right up here, right next to the kind of the first big mouth of the lake right there. It is North Dakota's largest natural lake. We do have another lake, which is Lake Sakakawea, but that is formed from a dam, which is damming up the Missouri River. So because of that, this is the largest natural lake. I'm not sure if it's a spring. I believe it's a spring-fed lake. I don't believe there are any rivers going into it, but I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm not a geological expert of North Dakota by any means. With that being said, we are close to the time where we're going to want to get our weather, so I'm going to see if this actually works, hopefully. So we're going to look at, that's Hector. We want Devil's Lake, and we're going to tune into the AWOS 125875. 125875. Alright, so winds are basically coming out of the northwest. They're 335 at 12. So next thing we can do is, I'm just going to shut this off. I don't want to listen to it. 335 at 12. What we can do is we can pull up and see what airport or runways they have. So there is a runway 31 and a runway 0321 1331. We're going to plan on running our landing on runway 31, which is the main one, as you can see right here. So we're going to plan on landing at that runway. You can see that we're scheduled to arrive in 17 minutes so far. I think we might be even a couple minutes early, which is a good thing. I want to get my radios to the CTEF, so 122.8. Let's get that on. 122.8. 00. Let's see if it gives us the options to actually... Nearest airport list. All right, we're already tuned to Devil's Lake Municipal, and we're going to select a runway for landing. And we're going to select runway 31 and announce full stop landing. And right now we're just going to announce our position. You can see Devil's Lake City right up here, and the airport is going to be a little beyond that right over here. So we're going to start positioning ourselves for that as well. We're going to monitor. I'm just going to plan on going in for a straight-in approach on runway 31 if possible. If I don't hear any other traffic, that's what I'm going to do. If I do hear traffic, then we'll enter the pattern. We'll probably just enter right traffic into runway 31, but hopefully we can just kind of do the straight-in, because that would make life a whole lot easier. We are going to have a little bit of a crosswind, but winds are at 12 knots, so I'm not too concerned with it. Also, I do have us descending a little bit, which I am absolutely okay with. We can start getting ready to do our final approach into Devil's Lake, and we can drop off Chastity at her destination. Hopefully there is a van or something there waiting for her to take her to her lodge or whatever, so she can do some lovely fishing. I have fished Devil's Lake. It is a great lake for fishing. They have lovely sized walleye. They have northern pike, crappie, perch, all the good fish that are just delicious in your tummy. But every time I have gone there, I have been targeting walleyes. My work always has a annual fishing tournament tournament out there, which I have participated in the last 2 years. Last year I did not place. I did not do very well. I have only a 16-foot boat, and this lake is rather large, and when it's windy, you can get like 3-foot swells are not uncommon in the middle of the lake. The downside to that with a 16-foot boat is it's kind of big and it makes navigation pretty difficult. So we were pretty limited on where we could fish simply based on the layout of the lake, giving us not a whole lot of options. We had to kind of be on the side of the lake that the wind was coming from. That way it would be the smoothest. We did get some walleye, but nothing too massive. However, the first time I did the fishing tournament, took 3rd place, and I got a nice little plaque for it. I was pretty happy about that. It's my chaplain buddy from work and I, who are usually on a fishing team together and do that. So we do always have a lot of fun doing that. It's a fun lake to fish. Like I said, it can be a difficult lake to fish as well because of the winds and how big it is, but also just because there is a lot of trees and stuff that are underwater, and there are some points in the lake where it can get super shallow and you can't even see it. So I definitely use my lake maps and my GPS when I'm fishing that lake, just because I don't want to strike the underbelly of my boat, or especially the prop, on something that I don't want to hit. But it is a lovely lake. Chastity, you are going to have a fun, fantastic, fun-filled weekend fishing there. It is Friday for me, but when I publish this, it's going to be Friday for you as well, because I plan to publish these on Friday. It's just not going to be the Friday that actually is today, which is 6/5 January, because I'm not even starting this series on YouTube until 12 June, excuse me, not January. Out here you can see the airport light, so that is where we're wanting to head to. The runway should be relatively in this position. I can't really make it out yet. I bet you if I were to cheat and zoom in, we could pretend that we have binoculars on or something like that and go like this, and we could probably see how the runway is laid out right there. As you can see beautifully. There is another runway which goes this way, but we're going to be looking at that one right there because that is runway 31. So we are looking beautiful for it. So I'm going to announce position again. Hearing a lot of people going to 9 Delta 7, but we're going to Kilo Delta Victor Lima, which is KDVL. How cool of an ICAO code is that, K-Devil? It's pretty awesome, I think. There's not a whole lot of traffic that does go into Devil's Lake. However, there is one regional jet that flies in here. I believe it only comes in once a day, though. It's not a large city by any means, and it puddle jumps. So it actually flies from Jamestown, North Dakota into Devil's Lake, and then out to like Denver, or else to Devil's Lake, and then Jamestown, and then Denver. I don't remember the exact path that it takes, but it's a small regional jet, like a I think it's a CRJ. Yeah, quite positive it is. It's a small plane that comes in here, and SkyWest operates it, and I believe it gets operated for Delta, but don't quote me on that. I am not positive. I just know that there is one regional jet that comes in here. Outside of that, I doubt there is a whole lot of people that fly into it for any other reason, except if you're coming fishing like Chastity. Why she didn't drive here, I don't know. Maybe she just wanted the flight experience. She doesn't seem like the dubious citizen that Christopher Norman was, or I think that was his name, you know, the guy that we had last time with the electrical failure. I'm gonna start pulling back my throttle, start getting us a little slower, especially since we're in the descent. I see the runway ahead of us now, so that is good. I want to start to slow us off so we can start putting maybe just one detent of flaps in. I'm not going to worry about them too much. Plus, we're a little high, as you can see by the lights ahead of us. Oh, and we got more turbulence. Awesome. Always a fun thing to deal with. If we look out our left wing, though, we can see lovely Devil's Lake out there. It's a great lake for fishing. I recommend if any of you ever get to North Dakota, come fishing here. There's a lot of bridges that cross the lake, too, and that's where a lot of the walleye like to hang out. So if you want some luck for some of the walleye, it's those places, or else some of those inlets that we talked about earlier. Gonna keep my throttle pulled back a little bit, bleed off some of that airspace. Don't want to climb like that though. Oh man, it is a little squirrely. Look at that altimeter or airspeed indicator just kind of bouncing around. I didn't do the cruise checklist. Basically, it is just power, 19,000 to 2550 RPM, elevator trim adjust, and mixture lean. We weren't flying very high, so we didn't even really need to worry about the mixture much. Before landing, seatbelts are good. Mixture is rich. Carb heat, we want to turn that to the cold or to the warm. Just make sure we don't get icing as we descend. Again, we weren't flying very high, so I'm not too worried about anything like that happening. Landing, we want to airspeed between 60 and 70 knots. As you can see, we are a little fast for that right now, so I'm going to put down my first detent of flaps. I'm also going to announce that I'm on final. Getting us lined up with the runway. Airspeed 55 to 65. Main wheels will touch down first. Landing roll, lower nose wheel gently. It's all just basic pilotage stuff. Why it even bothers to put it into the checklist is kind of beyond me. That's just, this is how you land. Seems like a pretty basic thing to do. Winds are mostly down the pipe. We do have a little bit of a crosswind, but it's not terrible. It's not even pushing us that bad. So far we are looking pretty good. Getting a little low, we'll give ourselves a little bit more power. Don't want to get too low. Using the rudders, try to line us up. Hopefully the wind will push us back towards center line a little. If not, I will get us situated for that right now. There we go. Looking a lot better of a landing than last time. Start pulling back that throttle. Don't want to lift that much. Don't want to drop hard. Oh, and we got way off to the left of the runway. I am not very good at this whole like landing thing. I'm gonna start braking. Here's that runway we can cross, and I believe I have to use it as a taxiway, so I'm actually going to do that. So I'm going to start turning this way. And we can see the taxiways right there, so that's where we're going to head. All right. We are off the active runway.
Hello, Delta Victor, Lima, traffic, Papa, Hotel, Quebec 3-1 is clear of the runway.
I'm gonna go ahead and put our flaps up. Carb heat, we can put that into the, whoops, not where I want to look, cold position. And we'll just go ahead and taxi to these lovely little hangars here and drop off Chastity and end our flight. For the most part, I thought it went fairly well. We did have a bunch of turbulence. The landing was not the greatest, but I struggle in this sim. I don't know what it is. It's hard to, like, you have so much up and down with your nose because of the winds, and then, man, the crosswinds. Winds were 335, so we had a little, whoa, tailwind. All right, we'll hit the brake there. We have a lot of tailwind. Make sure that we don't take off. Always want to try to turn the ailerons into the wind, but they're behind us, the winds.
Niner Delta 7 traffic. Cessna November 03543 is on.
But that should help us out, which I do have it. You can't see it, but I do have the ailerons turned in towards the wind some. Fortunately, braking, I have to use those buttons on my yoke until I swap out my new rudder pedals, which will have brakes that actually function, which is going to be nice. My other ones do kind of work, but unfortunately they hold that braking in, so I'm always having some kind of differential braking in, and that's not good, so I chose just not to use them. getting us in. I'm not even sure where to park on this, so I'm probably just going to find the first parking spot and go to it.
Niner Delta 7 traffic. Cessna November 035.
Start turning right here.
Runway 34.
And we'll follow this guy right here. And that looks like a parking spot right there, so I'm just going to take it because I don't know where the gate is even for this airport, and obviously I don't even think it has like a actual gate. I'm pretty sure they probably just undock and dock from the taxiway here. They just get into the parking and call it a day.
Niner Delta 7 traffic. Cessna
See if we can do a little better parking job than last time.
Runway 34.
We'll park there. Pull back my throttle, and we are landed. So parking brake is going to go on right away. Securing aircraft, parking brake is set. Radios and electrical equipment, we can go ahead and turn those off, so the avionics are coming off. Mixture, we're going to go to idle cutoff, and we will watch that engine shut down right there. Ignition switch, we're going to turn that to the off position as well. Whoops, wrong way. Stop. Right there. I can never tell which way that thing is turning. We're going to turn off the master switches, and then control locks, we would turn those off as well. Going to turn off the lights. Flaps are up. Everything looks good, and we can set our trim to take off for next time. Anyway, we have landed, so we're going to go ahead and turn off our seatbelt sign, which we don't have on this aircraft, and then I'm going to hit Shift-E to open the door, and we're going to start letting her out now that the aircraft engine has stopped. She's got 26 seconds, so while we do that, what can I talk about? I don't know. What we can do is pull up SkyVector and maybe plan out our next flight. I think what I'm going to be doing next time is heading down to Jamestown, North Dakota, which is right down here. Fun thing about that is it's pretty much straight south, and for our visual cues, we have these lakes that basically will be along the left side of our flight the entire time until we see a dam or a reservoir, which basically extends up like 30 miles from Jamestown. So we'll definitely have no difficulty navigating from there. Who we're going to bring there and why, I have no idea. So I'll have to come to that conclusion at some point. They are all unboarded, so I'm going to go ahead and hit Shift-E to close that door. Aircraft is secured, so I'm going to go to FSPassengers, and we're going to end the flight. Mode realistic flight already registered. As you can see, it was 111 nautical miles, which is exactly what SkyVector showed us. If I pull that up one more time, we can go to that flight plan, and we can see that it was 111.4 miles. ETE was 1 hour and 45 minutes en route, flying at an airspeed of 8.5 and an altitude of 0.45, which is what we did. So did we make that hour and 45 minute mark? I guess I am not entirely sure. Planned flight time was 1 hour and 45 minutes, and we did it 1 hour and 41 minutes, so that is good. I did notice that we were going faster than 85 knots most of the time, but just barely. We were going about 90, and with that headwind, that's probably how we were able to shave off a few minutes. Passenger opinion, exceptional flight, 100%. Is pleased to have landed right on schedule, is relieved to have landed safely after the extreme weather. Unless she is a he, I have no idea. Chastity, I would imagine, is a woman, but, you know, whatever. Experience during landing, that was just that turbulence. Ticket income was $61. There's all these kind of multipliers and stuff like that, because they multiply it by 50. No fleet bonus as of right now, because this is the only aircraft we have, and we made $2,050. So we basically made up for last flight, plus we need to do about 2 more to come out even, because we had to repair the aircraft after that. Considering the flight was perfect, ticket price is low, passengers on this flight think that your company's reputation should be 100. So our company reputation is now 71.07. That is great. Overall results are perfect. Look at that. Pilot bonus points, 430. You made a very nice landing outside of being a lot left of center line, but we'll just forget that. Perfect flight, no problems, and very satisfied passengers. You landed at the airport that was scheduled and a precise arrival time at destination. It was only a 3-minute and 51-second difference, so that is awesome as well. And we also had the extreme weather of turbulence and landed safely, so we got all those bonuses. So overall, I thought that went really well. I'm pretty happy about that. One last thing we can do is we can go into World and Map, and we can kind of check out what our flight looked like. So if I zoom out, you can see that we did start going a little north. I recognized that we were turning a little north, and then we basically flew. You see all those little corrections in there, just because the aircraft tends to turn left, right, and whatnot. But overall, I am very satisfied with my flight path as well to Devil's Lake. So great flight, I think. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you comment if you did. Ask me questions. Ask me anything, or just comment on the flight. If I missed something, or if there's something I should be talking about, if I screwed something up that I didn't notice, let me know. Call me out. That's how I get better as a pilot, and that's how you guys can also learn, by reading the comments and having that interactivity. I always try to answer or put a response to every comment I receive, so I would love to hear those. Also, make sure you subscribe, and when you subscribe, ring that notification bell, because that will allow you to know when I'm coming out with new videos. I plan to publish these every Friday, so hopefully you guys will be waiting in your seats every Friday, so you have the weekend to enjoy the video and enjoy seeing those. So we don't need to start a flight. We are all done. So thanks all for watching, and I will see you all next time.